Good evening and welcome to the Business Day. I'm Javon Keys. Global powers are being urged to desist from adding more sanctions on Russian oil and gas as oil-producing nations declare it impossible to meet global fuel demand if Russian oil is taken off the market. OPEC and representatives of the European Union met today. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, in a meeting with the European Union EU today, expressed that current and future sanctions on Russia could create one of the worst ever oil supply shocks. The talks come as the EU considers potential sanctions on Russian oil. OPEC Secretary General Mohamed Barkindo says more than 7 million barrels per day of Russian oil and other liquid exports could be lost resulting from current and future sanctions. He said, quote, considering the current demand outlook, it would be nearly impossible to replace a loss in volumes of this magnitude, unquote. Despite that declaration, the European Union reiterated its call for oil-producing countries to look at whether they can increase deliveries to help cool soaring oil prices. OPEC has resisted calls by the United States and the International Energy Agency, IEA, to pump more crude to temper price movements, which reached a 14-year peak last month. The rise was experienced when Washington and Brussels imposed sanctions on Moscow following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But what does a decision to implement more sanctions mean for smaller, non-oil producing states like Jamaica? It means higher energy prices and, in the worst-case scenario, a shift in supplies, as countries able to pay more and need higher volumes of fuel could be prioritized for supplies. Recently, the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, expressed concerns about supply if this worst-case scenario becomes reality. End of today's session, oil prices fell by about 4%, with Brent crude falling below $100 a barrel. This was influenced by concerns that the new wave of COVID-19 outbreaks may reduce demand in China, and as International Energy Agency IEA countries plan to release record volumes of oil from strategic reserves. Now, Brent futures fell $4.30, closing the session at $98.48 per barrel. This is the lowest close for Brent since March 16 this year. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude WTI fell $3.97 to settle at $94.29 per barrel. Now, WTI closed at its lowest since February 25, the day after Russian forces invaded Ukraine. Now back home, the JSE index declined by 941 points today, while the junior market index advanced by 11 points. Among today's winners were Cygnus Real Estate Finance US dollar shares, Elite Diagnostic, 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference shares, Sterling Investments US dollar shares, and T-Tech, while on the losing side were Portland JSX, Cargo Handlers, Iron Rock Insurance, SSL Venture Capital Jamaica, and Trans Jamaican Highway US dollar shares. The US currency is being sold for an average $155.34. $123.27 is the going rate for the Canadian dollar, $202.21 for the pound, while the euro is trading at an average $171.13. And that's it for the Business Day. I'm Javon Keys. Stay with us. Regional and international news are after the break.